Hey guys, welcome to the Manchester United News channel. Subscribe to the channel to not miss any news, leave your like, and share, you are very important for the growth of the channel. Let's go to the video.
Right, we could be in for a bumper month, and as we do at the start of every window, we're going to run through a few big names who could be on the move. And Dave, let's start with probably the most likely to move of these players behind us.
It does feel like Calvin Phillips' time at Manchester City has come to a natural end, really. It's a move that a lot of people thought would be an excellent one for Calvin Phillips, moving to Manchester City from Leeds United, but it's simply not gone well. And it feels like the time is right for him to almost admit defeat at Manchester City now. He signed a 6-year contract in 2022, 2 league starts last season, 0 league starts this season. He had opportunities to move on in the summer as well. Pep Guardiola has spoken quite openly about Calvin Phillips' situation, saying that, you know, he wanted to give it another go this season to try and work his way in, and Guardiola's been quite, you know, he's praised him quite a lot, really, just the way he's trained, the way he's handled himself this season. But it feels like this has come to a natural end now. There'll be plenty of clubs that are interested in him. It's interesting that, you know, when players don't tend to play as much, it devalues them. But it feels like Calvin Phillips has retained some of his value and some of the interest in him from other clubs in the Premier League. So there'll be plenty of clubs looking at him this January window. Yeah,
I mean, if you think of whatever formation any club plays, they need a defensive midfielder. He's an England international. It looks like he wouldn't cost that much to get him out of Manchester City as well. So we'll be talking about him a lot. That one likely to happen. But Dan, if we go from Manchester City to Manchester United, and there's 2 Manchester United players on there who we may be talking about. One of them in particular very interesting. We've got Jadon Sancho and Raphael Varane.
Yeah, I'll start with Varane. Obviously, you know, on paper, the accolades, he's won the trophies he's won in his career. Rafa Varane is Manchester United's best centre-half. The problem's been is that he can't stay fit, and this season it feels like Erik Ten Hag doesn't quite trust him as much as maybe he did previously. And Manchester United over the years have used 1-year options on contracts an awful lot, but it doesn't sound like they're willing to do that with Rafa Varane. We don't know at the moment what Manchester United's strategy is going to be under Ineos, so it's kind of one that we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Varane. But at the moment, you say he's not going to be a Manchester United player next season.
Would you say that it was the nail in the coffin when you started to see Johnny Evans starting over Varane in this Manchester United team in terms of his long-term future at the club? Because obviously he's a player that came in with a huge reputation, won multiple Champions League, as a World Cup winner. But when you're in the Manchester United team and you're on the bench, you see a player like Johnny Evans, who seems to be at the latter stage of his career, starting over you. Surely from a player's point of view, that signals the end of your time at a club.
Yeah, I think, you know, the rumours are that he's not happy with the stability of Manchester United at the moment. He won't be happy sat on the bench, because I'm sure he'll look at Manchester United centre-half options himself and think, I'm better than them. You know, if you're picking probably all 4 of us, if we were to pick Manchester United's 2 best centre halves, we'd probably pick Varane and Martinez. But Manchester United haven't been able, for multiple reasons, to get that duo on the pitch together this season. And to answer your question, quite often I feel like Manchester United's team is selected by names being drawn out of a hat, because it's so scattergun and there's different players named in the team in each week. Players who in the summer we were talking about, like Harry Maguire and Scott McTominay, you know, they're surplus to requirements, yet at various points in this season you felt like their first choice. So Manchester United has just been a bizarre setup for players in general over the last few years. So I think Varane will go, but I think he goes with his reputation kind of intact, because he's still a high-level footballer. And then the second player, who I imagine we'll be talking a lot about, is Jadon Sancho. It's just not a situation that can go on. It's probably already gone on and dragged on longer than both the player and the club would have wanted it to. And I think the difficulty Manchester United have is that the longer it goes on, I think the less chance they've got of recouping a high fee for the player, which is what they'll want. And footballers, almost when they're in this kind of situation, Jadon Sancho's probably sitting there and thinking, there's a chance here that I could outlast this manager. We don't know what's going to happen long term with Manchester United and Ten Hag. So Sancho's probably willing to bide his time, but he's on a very, very high wage, and you can't afford at any club to have a player who's getting paid that much to be sat there doing nothing, playing FIFA every weekend. So 2 situations that need sorting out for Manchester United, but I think 2 that will probably go down to the end of this window, if not into the summer window.
I think that the Sancho situation, the mediation obviously hasn't worked. No. With the footballing authorities at Manchester United, the manager and the player. You just wonder whether the investment from Ineos might bring another person to the table who will get involved in the kind of mediation on that front? Or will Ineos, Sir Dale Brailsford and Sir Jim Ratcliffe look at that and go, actually, let's maybe sever all ties with Jadon Sancho? I think that is something that has been considered at Manchester United, whether, you know, they look at the way that Arsenal have done things and severed ties with big name players and got them off the books, whether that's something that they will consider. But you're right, it's difficult when you're talking about the January transfer window to find markets for these players. You know, Rafael Varane's going to be on a good wage. Jadon Sancho is also going to be on a good wage. Where are these players going to end up because of the amount of money that United have invested in them?
Quake, of the players behind you, the one that surprises me the most is that player with the Chelsea badge there, Conor Gallagher. How would this go down to Chelsea fans if he does go?
It's even more telling the club that he's linked with. He's heavily linked with Tottenham Hotspur. And we understand that there was the agreement in principle for the deal in the summer that obviously didn't go through. And Conor Gallagher's been vital for Chelsea this season. He's a player that does it all. He's one of the captain's armband on multiple occasions. And he's a player that Pochettino has made it clear that he really rates him. He's a player that's played the most games that he's been available, and he's all action for Chelsea. And this is a Chelsea team, let's not get it twisted. Chelsea are a mid-table team right now, and he's a player that brings a lot to the table, and he's crucial for Chelsea. You'll understand that if Chelsea were competing for major honours this season, i.e. Champions League and Premier Leagues, but this is a Chelsea team that need Conor Gallagher, and the fact that he's being linked with not only other clubs, but some of Chelsea's biggest rivals, is troubling times to Chelsea fans, because he's a player that brings so much to the table, and the fact that he's now being linked away only tells you the mess there is at Chelsea at the moment. You talked about Manchester United being a strange place. Chelsea's a very, very strange place at the moment, and obviously we saw the outlay in terms of spending in the summer, and Chelsea spent a lot of money. Maybe this is a byproduct of that in terms of recouping some of that money spent. It counts as pure profit on the books in terms of FFP. But Conor Gallagher leaving Chelsea is something that you can't imagine happening because of his importance to that squad.
I think it's a symbol really of the way Chelsea have been run the last year or so, last 18 months, that they've now found themselves in a situation where, for profit and sustainability rules, that they may have to consider selling another homegrown talent. And
who's got the captain's armband on that picture,
exactly,
by the way.
and not just a homegrown talent. And, you know, I understand what Kwaku's saying around, you know, if Chelsea were challenging for honours, maybe, you know, Conor Gallagher wouldn't be in the team, but it's what he represents for Chelsea supporters. I can't believe that Chelsea supporters would be comfortable in allowing Conor Gallagher to leave the club. Not just leave the club, but to one of their main rivals. And it's what he represents. It's a homegrown player. It's the soul of the club. And I think Chelsea lost some soul when they lost Mason Mount. Yeah. And they might lose another bit of their soul if they lose Conor Gallagher. Who are the supporters going to attach themselves to? There's Reece James, but question marks over his long-term fitness. There's Levi Colwill, but it's another player that Chelsea supporters identify with, and if they lose another player like that, I just think it's sad for Chelsea supporters.
It's what that says to the manager as well. You know, this is a player that probably 9 games out of 10 is being named captain at the moment in a team that hasn't really got a lot of leaders. I think Gallagher has stepped up this season and has been one of the bright lights in this Chelsea team. And if Pochettino's picking him every week, which he is, that clearly means the manager rates the player. If you're then selling that player really without the manager's say-so, you worry about what that does for Pochettino, because Chelsea need some form of stability from somewhere, because that's one thing that they haven't got. They've got this collection of footballers who I think a lot of them will go on and be really good players, probably a lot of them for Chelsea. But at the moment it needs that manager to tie it all together, and I believe that is Pochettino, maybe not this season, but next season. But if you start losing players at the...
Thank you all for watching. Subscribe to the channel to not miss anything. Leave your like and your comment. That is very important for the channel growth. Until the next video.
Forever is the strangest thing. It's shorter than you think.